Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to ECUS, the Economics Canvas Hub series. Our purpose is engender and enlighten students as seen through the eyes of our former students who've taken economics at Chabot College. Welcome, everyone, to the interview series hosted by Martin Medeiros, my colleague at Chabot College, and myself, Ken Williams, both economists. It's my very great pleasure to introduce Dr. Robert Nakamoto, who is Dean of Social Sciences at Chabot College. And parenthetically, as I recall, he's also a Chabot graduate. So to begin with the first question I'd like to ask you, Dr. Nakamoto, is there anything in particular that led you to this particular branch of study, meaning social science and perhaps econ in particular?
Thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor just to be here to share some of my own personal experiences. I should foreground this by saying, yes, I am actually a first-generation college student, and I am an alumna of Chabot College. So this is my home community and the place where I entered into higher education. So it's really an honor to be back and serve the Chabot community in this capacity. I'll have to reflect back quite a few years actually to think back to when I was a student here at Chabot College. But when I think back, I remember that I was actually in a period of reflection. I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to study. All I know is that I was very involved in music. I was very active in high school, actually all the way down from middle school to elementary school, and playing in the school orchestra and the school jazz band. And so that was a very big part of my life. And I knew that many of my friends, and they had an outstanding music program at Chabot College. And so I was excited actually to come to Chabot and study music. And
What was your instrument?
my primary instrument was a saxophone.
Oh, saxophone.
Yeah, and so played in the jazz band at Chabot College. The instructor's name was Frank Sumares, and he actually was kind of like a music mentor to me because he really guided my own growth as a musician, and just a very inspirational music figure in my life at that period of time. I was contemplating whether not to actually pursue music as a major, but I decided that I had many passions. I would actually maybe continue to play music, but also pursue maybe a day job. And I had some other interests. I was interested in engineering at the time. Actually took all the math and science sequences at Chabot College, thinking that was going to be my path. Ended up talking to counselors there at Chabot, as well as just my own personal experiences. I was working at a public law firm, a public interest law firm, actually defending civil rights. And I got really engaged in activism and decided that actually I wanted to move in a different direction with my career, all the while keeping, the music going. But I ended up deciding that I ultimately wanted to pursue a degree in the social sciences. And so that led to actually a liberal arts degree, which then translated into me transferring up to Cal State Hayward. It was called Cal State Hayward at the time. And I got a degree there in human development, which is an interdisciplinary degree. So the focus there was on psychology, sociology, anthropology, phenomenology. It was just a nice blend of social science courses. And that really served me well because it provided not only a foundation in the social sciences, but it also inspired me to take other courses. And I had the freedom to pursue other courses that really influenced my life. I was able to take ethnic studies courses and women's studies courses. And those really were transformational for me because it was the first time in my educational career where really I was able to see my own culture, history reflected in the content and in the curricula that I was exposed to. And much of the books that I was reading were written by authors that looked like me. And that was actually a first for me. So that was very formative. And I appreciate the fact that I was able to really be exposed to a broad palette of different disciplines in that major. So that was really helpful. I ultimately went on to pursue a master's degree in psychology, which actually was also really helpful in providing a foundation for me to pursue a career I was actually deliberating between law and psychology as a career, and I ended up deciding that I wanted to pursue education psychology. And so that's what I did. I pursued educational psychology or school psychology. And in that process, I really had opportunities to work in educational systems across the state, starting in Los Angeles, and many districts up here in Northern California. Spent some time working for the state, for the California School for the Blind, and I worked in different capacities. A school psychologist, counselor, behavior specialist, teacher on special assignment, doing a variety of school climate work initiatives, grant work, administration, just a whole series of things where I really got to apply my background and training in the social sciences in those capacities. So I'm very thankful for really the opportunity to enrich my understanding of human relationships and how they interface within systems. And so it was a great preparation for me, and not only in my professional career, but just in life. I think one thing that I valued about my education was just the opportunity to learn about myself and what I had to contribute to the world. And I think I'm really happy with where I ended up in this career path. And education has just been, it's been such a blessing to touch other students and to influence other students in their own identification of what they want to pursue in their life, what they want to contribute to the world. And it's nice to be in a position where I can help facilitate that for other students. So in a nutshell, that's kind of a little bit about my background in relationship to this particular discipline that I'm in, social sciences.
As a follow-up, Dean, it seems to me like that you have fallen into the absolutely perfect position, both not for yourself, but also for our students. So if a student's interested in psychology, law, music, it seems like you're the go-to person. So I'm going to, do not despair, though. I'm going to send you about 300% more students than I have in the past.
That's fine. That's fine with me. I think it's really, I had a wise counselor at Chabot College who just really.
Who was your counselor?
Joe Kuwabara.
Favorite guy.
Joe
favorite
Kuwabara.
guy.
Yeah. He great guy. What inspired me about him is, one, he loved what he did. He loved his job. And that was very evident in all of his interactions with people. He was a people person, right? And so that was something that touched me. And then he also emphasized how important it was just to follow your passions. Yeah. And he would always sit down with me and say, hey, I was like, what class should I take? And he was like, well, what are you interested in? What excites you? What would you really look forward to? And I think in that process, I began to identify a pathway, because I was pursuing the things that I really care deeply about, were inspiring to me. And that ultimately led, I think, in some right choices down the road. So I think him taking that approach, I mean, clearly there's a combination of doing all of the requirements and having the knowledge to make sure you complete whatever path and degree that you're interested in. But ultimately, if you can incorporate, he said, just make sure you incorporate some fun stuff in your schedule to make your learning fun and keep it exciting and fresh. And I think that was great advice. So,
that's been the advice of several of our interviewees. It's a common thread among these very talented people we've interviewed. So you're definitely on the same page. Martin, what do you got for him?
Yeah, so one thing I'm just dying to ask you is just the years that you went to Chabot, because I have a feeling we actually may have crossed paths in the halls.
Well, can I say it was in the let's see. I can say it was in the 80s. Can I say that?
Yeah, okay. Yes, you can. Yeah, so we may have bumped into each other. Okay, so one of the things that we would love to know, because in a way you've got a macro perspective on the academic side, being in charge of social sciences, because economics is a part of social sciences. So one of the, I think, great insights that maybe you could provide is, what role do you think, or do you see economics playing in the broader social science framework?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I think my own orientation around understanding the complexity of social sciences is to think about models, right? And a model that's always kind of stuck with me that I still kind of hold in my my thinking is that of psychologist Yuri Bronfenbrenner. He developed this ecological systems theory. And, he described all the myriad of dynamic factors, right, in one's environment, that it really influences and shapes one's development. And so the model really shows the interrelationship of these factors, and industry and economics is certainly one of those influential factors, right? So education, we know, has the potential to really change one's social standing, right, through creating opportunities for upward mobility. And we know there's a very robust relationship between education and earnings. And that's something that we tell students, that there are numerous studies that show that advancing your education typically leads to higher annual and lifetime earnings in significant amounts. And that's part of what we use to provide some compelling data to say, hey, this is why you're putting the sweat equity into getting these degrees, right? So understanding the economic forces really is critical to understanding human behavior, human motivation, and also, really challenging issues around health and social disparities.
Just to add a number to that, this was done about 10 years ago, but the average high school graduate compared to the average college graduate earned $625,000 less than the college graduate. So therefore, if your college education costs you $40,000 to $50,000, your ROI, your return on investment, is really quite good.
And just to follow up what you said, and you can now link the framework that you laid out to the community college system itself, because when you talk about how economics can help identify the path to a better life through higher earnings, just making your life better, community colleges are that path, right? We interviewed a number of students who said, look, it was the community college that gave me the chance for the gold ring, so to speak, that an education could provide you. And I'm a living embodiment of it. Wasn't expecting to go to college, and actually it was Chabot that gave me that opportunity. In the interview I had with Ken, I kind of fleshed out how I'm so thankful for that opportunity. And it's that kind of marriage between theory and application, right? The theory is education helps you do it. Then you're working in an institution that it says, okay, now we'll give you the opportunity. So I really like that marriage between just action and ideas.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And you made me think of something, Martin, that we have our Chabot family and community, right, that supports us in development and our attainment of our educational goals. But there's so many people along the way, right? It's our community members, our family, our friends, our ancestors who've sacrificed in many ways to allow us to have the opportunities to pursue education. I mean, I think we hold all of those individuals with us, and they've all influenced. I know for me, they've influenced my trajectory tremendously and helped me to be where I'm at. So I'm very thankful and conscientious of that, because it's really about giving back, right? I mean, I feel like now I'm in a capacity where I can really help support and guide other students that are coming through who were like me, many decades ago. So it is really a wonderful role to be in. So thank you.
Dean, you've gone through every range of education. You've gone through undergraduate years at a community college. You did upper division work at a state university, and then you've worked on your educational doctorate. As honest as you possibly can, as authentically as you possibly can, because people smell a rat when they're telling the truth. How does your educational experience in terms of teaching quality compare at the community college with Chabot, with the state university, and with your PhD graduate work?
Yeah, really good question. They're very different environments, I would say, and the population of students are very different. What I appreciate so much about the community college is the population of students, that they really come with not taking for granted, I guess, certain opportunities. They come to Chabot really searching to advance whatever their career and educational objectives are, but they come from a very humble place, I find, and just really appreciate opportunities and ways to engage in education that is very different from maybe their P through 12 experience. Many of them have actually suffered trauma in their P through 12 experiences in education. And so I think being able to come to a community college to, as an adult, decide what classes they want to pursue, what course of study, what degrees, it really is an exciting opportunity for them to mature into what it is that they want to do, moving out of mandatory education experiences. And so I find that sweet period of students that are coming to community college, even though, quite a few of our students are not fresh out of high school. Many of them are returning for retraining, or many of them are advanced in age. That's the beautiful thing about the community colleges, the diversity of the population we serve. And that's something that I really appreciate about the community college system. Has such diversity in our classrooms, age, all the different identity markers that we can talk about. We have that diversity reflected in our classrooms, and that's unique, very unique. And I look at the doctoral program that I teach in, and I think about the students there. There's still diversity, but some of the diversity is not there because many of them have been, already in graduate education, or many of them are far advanced in their careers. Many of them, have decades of service already. So it's a different population from that standpoint. There's something that's very precious about working in the community college system, about the point which many of our students are at in terms of their life trajectory, that we really have a opportunity to transform their life, in those critical stages of development as they're thinking about forming their career, particularly if they're in the early part of their career. So,
since I've been in education for over 50 years, what I see at Chabot College is we provide so many more opportunities for students being successful that you do not have at upper division other schools. Would you care to comment about the efficacy of that, or whether it's true or not?
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. And people that have been through the community college system that go to four-year universities often comment on that. That's one of the first things they say is the level of access to personal connection, support, either from their instructor directly. Because many times when they go to the four-year universities, they're in large lectures where there's 500 to 1,000 students sometimes. And so you really don't have an opportunity to interact with the instructor. Many times you're just interacting with a teacher assistant. And so that is something to value about a community college experience, is the direct connection to your instructor, as well as, not to mention, all of the amazing student support services that the community colleges provide. And I think Chabot has been in the forefront of acknowledging how important that connection between student services and academic services are, right? The integration of those two areas are really critical, and where we've seen success in our learning communities, such as Puente and Darajana Umoja. They took the model, they integrated the student support services and the academic services components, and really provided an experience where those students can really interface with all of the educators in those programs and each other, and that network where they can receive the direct support, feel validated for who they are, and be supported in all of the ways that they need to be successful. I think we know those models are effective. That's why they've been replicated across the state, if not the nation. And so I think, that's a really rich tradition to be part of at Chabot College. I think we've scaled a lot of those efforts up. We're seeing that even to this day, that level of innovation and transformation embodied in the Black Excellence culture, Black Excellence Collective, BEC 10 by 10. That whole village model really is scaling up many of the lessons learned from these other programs. And so I think that that's exciting, because I think we know what works. It's just a matter of how do we do it? How do we scale it? How can we serve as many students through those models as possible?
I just want to just pick up on what you said, and the word I really focused on was when you used the word network. because networks allow for unforeseen opportunities, right? And when you have a network, you have the ability to just expose yourself to good fortune. And that was what really helped me when I went to Chabot, was the access to the instructor. I mean, there were two instructors in particular. Ken was one of them. He was my economics instructor at Chabot. And there was a professor, English professor. His last name was Kent. And to this day, I want to remember his first name, but he helped me immensely simply by critiquing a poem, a review of a poem I wrote in English 1B. And his critique was, I didn't expect to go to college, but because he took interest in what I wrote, that made me reevaluate what I was capable of. And that was he will probably never remember that encounter, but it's an encounter that had a tremendous impact in my life. And if I didn't have access to him, if I didn't interact with him in that network that you mentioned, my life would be very, very, very different. And it's the little things like that sometimes people don't know, but people, let's say like yourself or like me, remember. And that's why I've always come back to the community college system, is because I feel that I have a debt to repay because it's given so much to me, and the instructors like Ken and like Professor Kent that I interact with help me. And so that if I couldn't interact with them, my life would be very different.
Listen, I know you're very busy, and really appreciate the time that you've taken with us. You will be the capstone in all these series of 7 interviews, and I think you've done a brilliant job of conceptualizing for current students and future students about how they can achieve success at Chabot College. I'm so happy for. Do you have any final words that you might want to share with students who are going to enter Chabot for the first time, with particular regard to social sciences?
I would say just look at our courses, comb our websites, our new Canvas sites that are being created, such as this one, to really explore what we have to offer. I think that many times you don't have opportunities to take these courses if you're coming particularly out of high school. And so look at what's covered and really explore, take some of these courses. They're all going to fulfill general education course requirements. So I would say that's one. Explore, be willing to try something new. The other thing is, I would say is do what I would encourage you to do, is to meet with a counselor sooner than later. I know that in my time at Chabot College, I waited probably a little longer than I needed to or should have to talk to a counselor, and make an effort to build a relationship, if you can, with a counselor there that can help guide you in thinking about, these really important and big career decisions, and what are the specific course requirements. So you don't want to end up taking a class that you don't need, or if you can avoid it, you want to be as efficient as possible. But I think every class at Chabot is going to add value to your life. It's just a matter of if you have a particular goal and a timeline, counselors can really help guide and make sure that you get through to meet whatever goal you have. So I would say, yeah. Second thing is talk to a counselor, and then also get involved in Chabot's community. Chabot has so many, really a rich array of experiences that students can get involved with, from all of our student life activities. We have various service projects that serve the community, like our food distribution right now that's taking place, drive-through distribution. We have financial literacy workshops through Spark Point. We have a variety of student clubs and events throughout the year. And just so many ways. I think the research shows that the more involved, engaged you are in the life of the college, that the likelihood of success increases. Now we understand that it may be difficult if you're having to work and other life demands are on you, but as much as you can, encourage you to get involved in the life of the community there at Chabot.
Thank you. Martin, do you have any last questions?
I think we covered a lot. And I think that, you talking about getting involved, and the fact that we give students so many opportunities or different ways of getting involved, I think is important, because you said people are busy, life gets in the way, but any amount of connection with the broader community, I think is a big plus. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So one thing I would really love to know is as a high-level college administrator, how do you use economics? Because we're always talking about practical applications of what we teach, right? And you are somebody who is, has responsibilities. You have a budget, you have employees, you have students to serve. So we would love to hear how you use economics to do what you do.
So I've given this a little bit of thought, and my understanding of what economists do really is to think in terms of capital, right, and investments and those types of things. And as educators, right, we invest in human capital, right, developing the capacity really of students to reach their full potential. And we want our students to be, productive members of society. We want them to care about their communities, to care about being a difference maker in their communities. And for me as an administrator, I really seek to help equitize these opportunities for our students to use education as that vehicle to transform, their own social and economic trajectory. And there's a scholar that I particularly appreciate by the name of Tara Yosef, who developed a model called the Community Cultural Wealth Model, which really used the economic concept of capital and challenged deficit notions, particularly of low-income students of color, right? This community cultural wealth model really flips the script, if you will, and it asserts that actually all of our students bring various forms of cultural capital, right, in the form of knowledge, resources, and abilities. And she kind of categorizes these in 6 broad areas, and she talks about aspirational capital, linguistic capital, familial capital, navigational capital, social capital, and resistant capital. And as an administrator, I really see a big part of my role as helping to foster the right environmental conditions for creating really an instructional climate that's rich, right, to allow for our faculty and staff, as well as our students, to have really been validated and understanding that for our students, they're not just these consumers of knowledge, but they're actually producers of knowledge, right? With a vast array of experiences, cultural awareness, cultural capital to draw from. And so this is just a way in which I really kind of think about applying these economic concepts, the concept of capital in ways that may not necessarily be thought of, right, in traditional ways. And my role as administrator is to support and to really validate the capital and the richness that our students bring. So,
you bring up a common criticism of this, maybe the way economics is applied, where it's too much focused on financial capital, and in economics treats it like one source of capital. And you mentioned a whole myriad of other sorts of capital which have tremendous value, and economics deals with it. But too many times we become too myopic and focus on a particular type, and we don't leverage the value that comes from those other sorts of capital. So that's, I think, a very important point to make.
I want to thank you again for sharing your ideas with us. And as I mentioned before, this is the perfect way to capstone this entire interview series. And I'm so happy that you agreed to participate.
Appreciate it. Yeah.